Ladies and gentlemen, let me welcome you here on this wonderful morning at this wonderful event. First of all, thanks to the organizers to invite me to give you a little bit insight about our experience in research and farming. When I was invited to tell you a little bit about my farm and about what we do on the farm, I considered this photo to your left and to your right as maybe the best entrance for my talk. What it shows, and I'm sure you know about it, is an earthworm. But it's a sleeping earthworm. So this earthworm doesn't feel very happy. He formed a ball out of his body to prevent evaporation. So the environment for the earthworm is not good. And what the earthworm does, he tries to sleep over the problems. And I think we as farmers, and we as a society, we cannot sleep and wait till the problems are finished or till the problems are solved. I think we have to do something proactively. And therefore, the title of my presentation is The Symbiotic Benefits from Cooperation between Research and Practice. My name is Alfred. I am an organic farmer and entrepreneur from Austria. I am a farmer at Grand Farm for research and demonstration, but I'm also managing director at Wageningen Naturprodukte GmbH, a company that I will give you a little bit more details soon. I'm one of 12 mission board members one of 12 members of the global network of Lighthouse farms, and I was in the first round of the mission board for the Mission Soil Deal Europe. And I'm also active in AP Agri as an ambassador. I always consider myself trained by earthworms. Why? Because I have quite a simple education. So I never attended a university. I even couldn't go to study at a university because I have a professional farmers, professional winemakers education. So when I got into composting, when I got into vermicomposting, working with earthworms, I got in contact with science. And then I started reading scientific papers, starting to cooperate with researchers. And therefore, I consider myself trained by earthworms because that was the topic we're working on. So it all started at Wageningen, which is a small company where we produce organic fertilizer with the help of earthworms, where we produce compost and peat-free soil substrates. And when we started to get active into vermicomposting, I asked the Chamber of Agriculture, I asked the Chamber of Commerce if they could support us with our young startup, but they couldn't. They said, we have no idea what you're talking about. So therefore, we had to approach the universities. And we did our first research, because when I went to the university with a couple of questions, and I always was worried to disturb the professors there at the university because they have no time, they're busy, and I'm coming as a farmer and says, please, I have a question, I have this question, I have that question. But then I realized they were also interested in what we do. So they were interested in our experience. So I was interested in their know-how, and they were interested in our experience. So we started to cooperate. And one of the first operations was research where we tried to see if the vermicompost extract, the compost tea, can help in contaminated soils. And before I show you this slide on that, I would like to give you also the opportunity that Wageningen is now partnering with Soil Nurture, a company that also has a small stand here on the farm. So if you on the event, so if you have more questions, I'm sure they are happy to help you. So one of our first results that we had is we could show, or not we, because we do not research on our farm ourselves, we have the scientists. We asked the scientists for doing research on our farm. So what they did is they checked out if compost extract, so microbes which are washed out of solid compost and then are in a kind of compost tea, if you pour it on a contaminated soil, if this could help with the contamination. And with this first trial, which was about 15 years ago nearly now, we have seen significant results in reduction of phytotoxicity, in growth of microbial biomass, in the agent decreased by 60%, so the pollutant decreased by 60%, and we had more plant growth. So we had significant results in 4 different topics, and that was really interesting for us, and we didn't expect these huge results. So going from this result up to the present, is a study that we started 1 month ago together with a student. Last year we had 16 students from 8 different countries on our farm doing research, doing practice. And this year we had 1 student from University Hohenheim, Vincent Bieringer, and it's the guy who is holding the songbook for this girl. So they also have a lot of fun on the farm. But he did a study where he compared corn seeded in organic soil and in conventional soil and treated one treatment with water only and the other treatment with compost tea. And what we found out is significant differences in germination index. So the compost tea treated treatment was higher in germination index. So the germination took place faster. And we had differences in root growth, root biomass, and shoot biomass. So that's really interesting. And by accident, 3 months ago, scientists from Texas showed up on our farm. She sent me an email, can I come on the next day to visit your earthworm farm? I said, okay, let's come. And she's now studying at the University of Vienna. She's working at the University of Vienna. And she came up and she wanted to do DNA analysis of the vermicompost and the earthworm gut. And what she offered for taking the samples, if you have a nice project, then we can do some analytics for you also. So we gave her a call, and she fetched some of the samples, and we are now expecting a new analysis to see if the microbiome, the community of microbes in the root, in the rhizosphere, is different from the water-treated corn seed to the compost tea-treated corn seed. So you see a lot is going on, and accidentally a lot of things come together, and that's really great, and these are things that can happen if you have a research farm. So why would we need on-farm research? And I don't want to go through this list because you know all the challenges that we are facing, and we don't want to really talk about it on such a beautiful day. But we just can't go on like we did for the last decades. So we have to change something. We have to move forward, and we have to do something which has an impact. So what is a research farm, in my opinion? I know a lot of farms who are demonstration farms, who are research farms, but most of them, they are invited by researchers, by scientists, and they are asked, and it was the same with me. Scientists ask me, do you have a field? We want to do a wheat variety trial. We want to do this. We want to do that. That's nice. And it's good to get in touch with scientists. But what we really want to have is we want to have researched our own topics. So not the topics the scientists approaching us, but the topics that we care about. And so therefore, its own initiatives, own ideas, own innovations, but also the own challenges that we have on the farm. I think this is the most important thing if we deal with scientists and not let you overwhelmed by the scientists and say, okay, we want to do this and we have this laboratory equipment and we want to check this and this out. No, our questions are important. So make sure your voice is heard, because innovation starts in practice and not in research. You have to consider, as a researcher, you are trained to work accurate. So innovation is not something that is in the heart of research, but this is something that's in the heart of practice. So why cooperate on research? First of all, we need research, no trials. So a lot of farmers have good ideas, they do something, and then they think, okay, that's nice, it works out perfectly on my farm. But it's always only your personal view. So it was the same with me, and I always liked my research treatments. That was my idea more than the other treatments. But what we need is that we have a neutral eye on the research. And so we invite researchers to do the work on our farm. We don't do the research ourselves, definitely not. Because these guys are really trained to do accurate and to do valuable research. So another reason is because we have farmers, in my opinion, are solution-oriented. So when they have a problem, they try to deal with it. So let's say we have weed on the farm or we have a disease. We are not so much interested where it is coming from and how it is developing, if it's growing, the problem, or if it's decreasing. We are only interested in growing our crops and selling this. But the researcher on the other side, they are more interested on the background. So they are more problem-oriented. They see, okay, where is the weed coming from? Which species of weed do we have? What do we see out of this? Are they getting bigger? Is the problem getting bigger or less big? Under which conditions, and so on. So if we combine these two approaches, then we really have a leverage. So 1 and 1 is not only 2, but maybe it's 3 or 4. So I think this is really important to do these cooperations. So another reason is no sector can tackle all challenges. So it's always, we always ask scientists to solve the problems of the global problems, the global challenges. But they can't do it alone. So we need to work together. We don't have the time to say, okay, dear scientists, we give you this amount of money, solve climate change, solve the loss of biodiversity, solve migration, solve feeding the world. So we have to work together, all stakeholders, not only scientists, but also practitioners, farmers, but also politicians, societies, NGOs. I think the more we work together, the more different perspectives come in, and the more faster we come to solutions. Another reason for cooperating with science is because we need the research that we need to have in practice. So the research that we need to have an impact in practice. That's also important, because often research is done in a different way, and there is a lot of monitoring, there's a lot of collection of data, and then it's not a real solution in practice. But if farmers are involved, then they are pushing for the results, and they are saying, okay, we don't want to collect data for the next 10 years on the farm, we want to see a solution for the problem. So therefore it's really important to work together. And at the end, there is no alternative to cooperating, because if we want to tackle the global challenges, we just have to work together. What are the benefits? Again, more practical research, faster progress, higher impact in practice, but also research on your own challenges. So the problems that you have on your farm can be directly approached, and this is really important for your practical work on the farm. And if you have but that's not true for every type of research. If you have a good research fund, then you will also compensate it for working on your own challenges on the farm. So that's also a good reason to start research and cooperation. Then at the end, it's also understanding, a better understanding of the stakeholder. So understanding what the scientists say, what the approach of the scientists is, and also from other stakeholders. So let's go back and see what Grand Farm is doing in Austria. We are based near Vienna. We have a 90-hectare farm, and we have an arable field farm. We have 10 people working on the farm. Most of them are academics, so they are really working as a gardener on the farm, and that's also interesting. You can come to that back later. And we are a production farm, so we are not a research institution. We are a productivity farm, so we are full in production, but we are also in research and demonstration. Our focus is on soil health, inspired by the earthworms, but also on agroforestry, so bringing back wood to arable land, like bushes, trees, and on market gardening, which is a form of land use where you grow a range of different vegetable on small land by hand for the local community, for local sales. So which methods do we use on the farm? Just to give you a little bit of overview. So first of all, we are an organic farm. So we are working not only according to the regulation of the EU, but we are also working according to the regulations of Bio-Austria, which is an organization for organic farmers in Austria, and other regulations. We also use agroecological methods on the farm, and I'll show you which one. So we are using crop rotation. Our crop rotation is 2 years of lucerne, then winter wheat, then corn, hemp, soybeans, and rye. And then we go back to lucerne mixed with oat. So we combine the oat, and then the lucerne stands again for the next 2 years. We use cover crops as much as possible, as early as possible. So the earlier we can get in with the cover crops, the more diverse, the more expensive they are. The later in, the more simple they are. We seed the last cover crops, the first ones in mid of July, with about 10, 12 different species, and the last ones with rye only in the beginning of October. We use mixed seeds for different reasons. One of the approaches that we use lucerne and oat. So we have a Federstart Rapid, which is a mulch seeder, and we have 2 different seed tanks where we can decide the main crop, the seeding depth of the main crop, like 3 centimeter deep, and then on top of it, on the surface, there is a grass seeder, which just distributes the seed to the surface, and then it's just a harrow going over it, and so we can seed in 2 different seeding levels. We implemented agroforestry together with the Lower Austrian government, and it's a multifunctional hedge with a main purpose in catching the wind. So it's a wind hedge, but we, at the same time, we also mitigate climate change, we adapt to climate change, we stop the loss of biodiversity, we gain profit from the economic profit, so we collect the wild fruit, we want to put in laying hens and so on. So we want to see how many profit can we have from a wind hedge or from agroforestry systems. And we also do research like monitoring the bees, butterflies, and the ground beetles, and doing other research also. Beside of the agroforestry system, we have flower strips, which was also a project we did together with FIBEL, which is the research Institute for Organic Agriculture from Switzerland. They also have a department in Austria, and this is also something where we do and where we can see an increase in benefits on, especially on biodiversity. For sure, we use compost on the farm, especially in our market garden. So compost, vermicompost, seed treatment, as you have seen already with the research that I showed you, and also transfer mulch. So we collect alfalfa hay and bring it to the garden, in the vegetable garden, and there we use it as a mulch. And there we see huge results in increasing earthworm numbers, earthworm activity, and increase in soil health and even organic matter, carbon sequestration. We also do and did trials in organic no-till with the roller crimper method. My friend Jeff Moyer from the Rodale Institute in Pennsylvania developed the system, and we do trials since 2015, mostly in spring application. So we roll down rye cover crop and we plant soybeans in there. But in the last few years, we always had spring drought, so very dry conditions in spring. And therefore now we consider to change to autumn application. So what we did with a farmer's friend, a trial where he had a fava bean cover crop, and that was rolled down mid of October, and we planted a winter wheat in it, and that worked very, very well because you can reduce the risk with drought. You can reduce the risk with late seeding date, and so it really shows very promising results. We apply. We have a market garden in there on the farm where we do also a lot of research and projects on. We have 50 different crops there. And we do summer and winter production. So we have a box scheme where we have 150 to 180 boxes sold every week, and there we deliver the boxes about 46 weeks per year. The promising thing with market gardening is that we see 11 out of 17 SDGs of the Sustainable Development Goals of the United Nations touched. So this has really a huge impact, not only on productivity. So we always say, what's in the box? In the box, it's fresh, organic vegetable, seasonal, regional. So it already has a high value. But what's also in the box is mitigating climate change, adapting to climate change, stopping the loss of biodiversity, but also creating jobs in the rural area, bringing young people back into agriculture. So there is a lot more than just producing vegetable with this scheme. So what's going on the farm right now? You can see there is a huge list. We are involved in 2 different AP Agri projects, operational groups, one in market gardening, one in agroforestry. We already finished 3 other ones. We have the student projects in seed coating, but also in substrate, starter substrate, for example. We are part of the Best for Soil Horizon 2020 project, part of Erasmus Plus project, now also part of new beginning EU Horizon Europe projects, and also part of the World Economic Forum Davos 100 Million Farmers Training Program, where we are preparing together with the global network of Lighthouse farms such trainings on our farm for the next year. So what type of cooperations do we do on the farm? As you can see, there is a lot of cooperation with international partners. I just want to highlight Rodale Institute, Global Network of Lighthouse Farms, Mission Board, EU Commission. So these are the most important players, but also local NGOs where we bring in birds, for example, or where we monitor bees, ground beetles, butterflies, things like that. Most important are our interns. So we're working with, last year we had 16 interns from 8 different countries, and that's really important for us because these guys, they are eager to learn and they want to see something, and we also learn from them. So it's more sharing experience, sharing knowledge than teaching something. So what if you want to get into research on your farm? What can I tell you from the last 10, 12, 15 years of experience? So first of all, don't give up on registration process. This was something I had to experience on a European level when I was invited to join EU Horizon 2020 project. I had to register my farm at the European Commission, and it was not possible. So I was invited, and I thought, okay, let's do it. And then after 4 or 5 weeks, the feedback was, yeah, we can't find your company on the registration database. I said, okay, what's the problem? Yeah. At the end, it showed up that I was a farmer and not a company. So in Austria, it's different regulations, different databases where you get your registration number as a farm. So it was nearly impossible to register. But at the end, because I was pushing them hard, I need this PIC number. And then they said, okay, you can register as a natural person. So for a lot of things, farmers are not intended to participate in. So we just have to open these things up. And I just received a call from the Commission 2 weeks ago where they asked me, can you help us with some tips to make it easier for farmers to apply for research projects or to participate in research projects. So it's just not in the systems that farmers want to be involved in such projects. So another thing is learn to understand the scientific language, because even if we speak the same language, farmers and scientists, we just don't understand each other. So we have a different approach, and I think it's important for us as farmers not to say, okay, these academics, they know nothing about farming, but also not to say, okay, the professor is like a holy person, and I'm afraid talking to them or proposing my ideas because I think, yeah, maybe they already did the trial and it didn't work out, and if I ask the question, it's just stupid. No, please keep them on eye-to-eye level and talk to them. They are happy to talk to us. They are eager to get informed, and they have the same feelings about if I say something to the farmer, he might think I'm stupid. So please just keep that straight and just talk to these guys. They are really interested. Don't start with too many projects. That's something really important. We did this. You see the list that we have, and we are struggling with some things really. So it's really important not to do with too many, start with too many projects, and also not to allow the coordinator of the research program to put you in something that you are not willing to do. So we have our skills, we bring in the innovation, we bring in the ideas, we bring in the challenges, we have our practical skills, we know what we can do, and don't allow the coordinator to give you a task that you are not, you can't do, or you are not willing to do. Because we are in some projects where all partners have to deliver the same performance. So we had to do, for example, literature research on agroecology in Austria for the last 30 years. And that's not what a farmer should do. And we did it, and it was a real burden, and it took 3 people to do it, and we were really not happy with the output. So try to force people that they say, okay, I'm a farmer, I'm good in some things, and I'm very good in these things, and I'm not good in the other things. So it's better to share this experience and to share the skills, but not everyone has to bring in the same skills. Grow your network. That's really important. Go to conferences and go there. And we are now even asking for compensation if farmers go somewhere, not because we as a farmer always ask for money, but when I was just invited to a national conference and to give a talk, And then they asked me, why are farmers not interested in what the politicians do and what the framework is and so on? I said, okay, let's do a trial. Everyone who is in this room on his holiday, just raise your hand. And then I was the only guy, because all the others were doing it in their work time, because they were hired for the ministry, at the Chamber of Agriculture, by the university, or by some organization. So I, as a farmer, was the only guy who not only was there in his spare time, but even had to hire someone driving the tractor at home. So when I told the commission about this problem, they said, oh, okay, we didn't know about this. so I think it's also important to get these things started to discuss about these things. Yeah, what I already said, try to bring in your ideas. Try not to be forced by someone, a research coordinator who says, okay, we have a lab, we have this equipment, and we will do these trials. No, that's not what you were asking for. You're maybe asking for another result or for another question to ask, and try not to be overruled or over-opinioned by others. Talk to the specialists. So also if you approach a scientist and say, I have a question on this and I want to do research on this, make sure the guy or the lady is already quite safe in this topic and quite experienced in this topic, because often then the scientists all just have to start to do the first literature research on that topic, and then they even know less than you know already about this topic. So try to approach the specialists already. Yeah, and start with an existing network. So what's already there to make it easy? So for example, there is the global network of Lighthouse farms, which you could approach. There is the Mission Soil Deal Europe, which is also possible for UK farmers, I think. Then there is the Best for Soil Practical Network, or in the UK there are the Innovative Farmers. So, and there is much, much more. So you don't have to fight for yourself. You don't have to start as a one farm project, but you can approach different networks and start getting involved in research there. So just a quick overview. EU Mission Soil Deal is a 1 billion euro project from the European Union, and I think the UK is still considered to can participate in that project. And the idea is that as far as we know, about 2/3 of the European soils are considered not healthy. And the idea of the EU Mission Soil Deal is to turn around these numbers. So 2/3 of the soils should be considered healthy in 2030. What does healthy mean? Healthy means that the soil can fulfill the soil functions, the different soil functions like productivity, water management, biodiversity, carbon sequestration. So all these functions should be considered to have a healthy soil. And the good thing with the Mission Soil Deal is that 40% of the money will go into living labs and lighthouse farms. So there is a new approach into research and research cooperation especially. So it will not be like collecting data and monitoring soil carbon sequestration, things like that. But they are considered to create 100 living labs, and living lab is a region where soil health research is done. And the important thing, it is done in cooperation with farmers, with practitioners, science, but also other stakeholders like politicians, NGO, society, and citizens. So that's the big deal with the Mission Soil. So other projects except of the living labs are also monitoring, and communication is a big thing for citizens, for example. Another network that's also really important is the global network of Lighthouse farms. It was initiated by Wageningen University, the Farming System Ecology Institute, and we are part of the network. It's a network of 12 farms all over the planet, and there is a lot of progress and a lot of activity now made. If you want to approach this network, you can also try to applicate for being a Lighthouse farm also, when you are already into research and when you are also inviting students to do research on your farm. We do a lot of research together with Wageningen University, so we have students doing master thesis on our farm, but also other projects like the training workshops for the 100 Million Farmers program at the World Economic Forum in Davos. Okay, so that's it for now. I would like to invite you to join our slogan, and we always say we grow food, soil, and people on our farm. And so I would like to invite you to join us in this approach, work together with science, practice, and also other stakeholders. If you have any questions, I'm happy to help you. Thank you.
Hi there, thanks very much. That was really, really interesting and inspiring. One question that I have is about our own experience looking to collaborate with scientists to do research that's applicable to farmhouse cheesemaking with us as the industry partner. A question that's often arisen is what is going to be the contribution of the industry partner? And sometimes they're looking for money, say to fund a PhD student, and the only way to get that is to contribute, say, £30,000 to that effort. And of course, even as a complete industry, it's very hard to get that kind of funding. I'm wondering, in the context of your farm, what is the farm expected to provide?
This is really, it's a difficult to answer question because on one side we're doing a lot of research, a lot of activity for free, just out from enthusiasm, and then from other projects we are getting compensated quite good from EU projects, and then we can internally compensate for our volunteer work. But considering the history of our farm, it was when we started doing research, there was no funding at all, and then universities took a lot of lab costs and things like that. And then when we had some research, some results, then the university applied for further funds and so on, or we were invited to join consortiums that applied for research funds. But for a lot of projects like master thesis on the farm, we contribute only in our work, which is quite a lot because the master students, they also need a lot of time to consider, coordinate, plan, and so on. So that's something where we try to get some compensation from the university, but this is quite difficult. So at the end, it's a mix. For some projects, you get really good funding, so you can compensate with others, but there is still a lot of enthusiasm in it.
Hello, Alfred. You're clearly organic in your system, and that obviously has quite a good level of finance behind it to support your projects on your farm with your business. The problem we have in this country is if you want to blend some organic techniques with non-organic techniques, so chemistry plus biological techniques, there doesn't tend to be the funding available because there's quite extreme views that either you're purely organic or you're industrial intensive. In Austria, are you a little more open-minded as a country to the middle ground, which perhaps is the word regenerative has been now taken to cover and arch a much wider knowledge base than just a specialist mindset? Because some of us are doing experiments where we're trying to blend organic with non-organic farming principles for the middle ground. And so the real question is the money there in the middle for us?
in Austria we have about 26% of farms cultivating organic. So we're quite good in that, and the funding for organic farmers is about €200 per hectare. So what they get additionally to the other funding coming from GAP. So it's not a huge amount, but there is no funding for regenerative agriculture. So that's really difficult. What we have is we have two pillars in our common agricultural policy, the ÖPUL, which it is called. And on one pillar you get that your finance or your paid by hectare, by the amount of hectares, by the amount of land you have. And on the other side, you're getting paid for example, reducing pesticide in wheat. So you don't have to be organic. If you are organic, you get some money. But if you're conventional and you're reducing your inputs, for example, you get additional payments. If you're introducing cover crops, you get additional payment. So it sums up at the end, and it's a kind of mixed financing then from the state. But there are now initiatives to get to bring in private money, so impact investment. But I don't see a lot of money coming in from there right now. We hope to have more in the future, but right now there is a lot of talking, but I hope we don't stop at talking. Yeah.
Hi, Alfred, I got a very specific question. You mentioned using beans as a cover crop and then drilling wheat in after the bean cover crop in late October. And so I just wanted to know, when you put the beans in the ground as a cover crop, and if you are growing pure beans as a cover crop to then crimp, does that pose problems if you're growing beans in the rotation as a cash crop?
Yeah, in this case, it was real by accident, because the farmer was growing fava beans and he had a lot of fallout. So he tilled it in. And the fava beans germinated back, and then they had a really nice cover crop, like nearly 80 centimeter high. And we rolled down this cover crop and put the winter wheat in. In my opinion, it should also work with a mix of cover crop, for example, not only the beans, because yeah, you're right. If you grow a species as a cash crop, then you shouldn't involve it too much into the cover crop, at least not too heavy, like this real pure monoculture of fava beans. But I think the good thing with the autumn application of the roller crimper is that I would recommend a mix of frost-killed species, and then you roll it down when they flower. And you seed your winter wheat, for example, at mid of October. What is the actual date in Austria, which is recommended? And either it's terminated by rolling it down, or it's terminated when the frost comes. So it's much more safe than a spring application where you roll down your rye when it starts flowering. So you have to wait till it flowers. In the autumn, you don't have to. Either it's killed by the roller crimper, or later on by the frost.
I noticed within your presentation that you are doing a lot of research with master's students, and I know that that doesn't usually culminate in published, sort of peer-reviewed scientific publications, and I'm wondering what mechanisms there are for the sharing and dissemination of the knowledge that's gained from those trials.
Yeah, we are invited by a lot of media to do dissemination. On one side, we disseminate to farmers' colleagues, but also to the citizens, to the society. So we bring in a lot of visitors to the farm, starting from kindergarten, like nursery, 3, 4, 5 years old, up to students or politicians or media. So there is a lot of dissemination going on. Thank you for the question, because Vincent, the guy I just showed you at the beginning of the presentation, he doesn't even have a master, so he's a bachelor only now. And the lady scientist from the Texas University, she invited Vincent now to be co-author because she wants to publish the results of this. So that's great also, and students really get enthusiastic if you involve them in something, and they can see, okay, they discovered something, that's something new, and that's something that will be published and can be read in a scientific paper, even if they didn't finish with their academic education. Okay.
Could I just follow up with that question then to say, that's, I mean, media outreach and so forth is really great. I'm just wondering from the perspective of, say, other farmers out there who might want to take advantage of the knowledge that's being generated. It feels like there's a missing link in terms of sharing, having that knowledge and that information that's being generated actually easily accessible to others who want to use it. Solutions to that.
Yeah, the question is, how can farmers be involved about the research results we do? Because farmers usually don't read scientific studies. That's true. But there's a lot of research projects going on, like the operational groups, where the scientists do the publication in farmers' journals and also social media and so on. And we have a monthly newsletter where we bring all the news that are happening on the farm, and either it's a birthday of a student or it's a research or a publication of a scientific paper.
One last question.
Yeah. No, it's okay. We still have 10 minutes.
I was curious to know, in your sort of experience and networks, the extent to which you've come across artificial intelligence being used in research and analysis.
Special intelligence? What
artificial, AI.
AI.
Yeah.
Not right now, but we are open. We are open to any type of research. I'm not the guy. I'm not sure if all the smart farming digital innovations are that helpful in practice, but I'm open because we are a research and demonstration farm. We are open to do research, and we hope to see more impact in practice in the near future, and not only costs for farmers who have to invest in the technologies. But at the moment, it's a lot of investment, a lot of costs, and not everything pays off, I think. But I hope there will be more coming up in the future.
Hi, Alfred. I was interested in understanding how your relationship with researchers in developing the research has changed from when you first started and you were probably not as comfortable to now when you feel like really empowered about developing research in your farm. Do you co-create? Do you let them guide you? How does that relationship work?
Yeah, good question. Thank you. That's really interesting one, because at the beginning I was a bit afraid and said, okay, they are proposing something, and then I cannot say no because I'm invited to join the project, so I cannot say yeah, but we do it this and this and this way. Nowadays I try to be really honest with scientists, and a lot of things that they propose are great and are fantastic. But then when I see, okay, this is not really what we want to see in practice, and they're only implementing this question or this method because they have the lab, which was 5 million euro, I don't know, and they have to use it, and so they always try to bring the research into using these methods or these tools that they have. Then we really try to shape the research, and a lot of things that we are doing now is coming from our own initiative. So we are asking, because we have already really a huge network, just alone from the three from the three focus group where I was joining, which I was joining in AP Agri. I knew 60 scientists from all over Europe, and then we can really pick someone and say, okay, we have a question. And we bring that question to the scientists, and then they start thinking about, okay, let's do a small trial. Let's see if this is an interesting thing, and if we have a little result, then we go deeper. Then we send the master students, or then we apply for funding for another project. Yes, please.
You mentioned earlier
Just wait for the microphone. Thanks.
Yeah. You mentioned early on that you felt that it was important that the researchers were integral to the research that was going on the farm. I was quite interested in that. We're working on a project and we're trying to train farmers to make assessments of crops. The idea being that it gives them a greater understanding of their growing crops, but also it means that we can then have a much bigger data set, because rather than having researchers onto farms to make those assessments, in theory any field could become part of the data set. So I was just interested in your comment and how you would feel about making those assessments on your farm, whether that was something that you would feel confident about doing given the work that you've done already or not, and what would you need to make you feel confident about making those assessments, because that's obviously what we're trying to encourage farmers to do.
Okay, so the question was how I feel in doing research my own, or as part of the research my own on the farm. Like assessment of crop development or something like that.
Exactly, yeah.
For me personally, it's difficult, really, because I know, meanwhile, I'm old enough to know my skills and know my weak characteristics, and the chance that I forget to do an assessment or two is quite high. And so then I would destroy the value of the research results, and therefore I would be a very bad researcher, a very bad scientist. But I try to be more the innovative guy who brings the initiative, brings the thoughts, and try to think out of the box and try to bring in new ideas. For accurate work where you have to do your task properly and always use the same amount of water and so on. So that's not what farming is like. If I have to irrigate a small tester and just go with the hose, okay, it's wet, finished, thanks. And the scientist goes with every plant and puts the same amount of water in and takes the time, like 2 hours, to do the task that I do in 5 minutes. But I'm a farmer, I'm a practical guy, and these are the researchers. So for me personally, it's more difficult to do such assessments, and therefore I say we provide the infrastructure, we provide the ideas, we provide the innovations, we provide the challenges, and the scientists have to do their work because they can do it really, and they are trained to do it accurate and properly. So
it's the complexity of the assessment and the task that it would be the
not so much the complexity, because I would be eager to learn how to do it, but I cannot promise that I will do it every day or every week. So I have to put it in my calendar, and then I miss it, and I forgot yesterday I should have done it, and more these things.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so thanks a lot for your questions. Thanks a lot for staying with me. And I hope you enjoy the day. If you have more questions, we can speak later on. Thank you very much.